As a white man in the United States, I'll never know how it feels to be black in America. That's why it's even more vital that I listen. One of the things I've seen in my short tenure thus far in the Senate is that a lot of my colleagues like to talk, and there's a lot of grandstanding in this place. And we would all be well advised to do more listening and a little bit less talking. He gave me my first job anywhere near public policy or public service. And the first time that we shared a meal together, what he wanted to talk to me about was the historic alliance between blacks and Jews in the civil rights movement. That's why when I was sworn into the Senate, I was sworn in on a book of scripture that had belonged to Rabbi Jacob Rothschild, who was the chief rabbi at my synagogue in Atlanta when it was bombed in 1958 by white supremacists because Rabbi Rothschild was an ally of Dr. King's. I view my obligations in the ongoing struggle to secure equal justice for all and to protect the franchise as a continuation of that alliance. And I will always carry with me the lessons that Congressman Lewis taught me and the fact that he had his skull fractured half a century ago for daring to demand voting rights for black Americans in the American South, and yet still the right to vote is under attack. He always urged us to remain vigilant, and that vigilance is called for now as much as ever.
There are moments of incredible connection, particularly in the 1950s and early 60s, in the kind of heyday of that era of the civil rights movement. But previous to that, there's not a clear Black-Jewish alliance in Georgia. There's this one trial that we talk about often, the Leo Frank trial, which was in 1913. Frank was a Jewish factory owner who was accused of killing a young white woman. And the basic story is that Frank, the white Jewish factory owner, didn't commit the crime. Then it had to have been committed by the African-American janitor in the factory, Jim Conley. So there's very much not a Black-Jewish alliance in the moment of the trial or in the aftermath, because there's a real zero-sum game. You know, Jewish organizations are, for the most part, supporting Frank, and nascent African-American community groups and civil rights groups are, if not supporting Conley, at least calling attention to how anti-Black racism is at work in the trial and in surrounding rhetoric. One of the direct outgrowths of that is the Anti-Defamation League forums. And the Anti-Defamation League for years presents itself as being a group that's organized by Jews, primarily for the interest of Jews, but interested in racism, religious-based persecution of all forms. I don't want to take away from the great victories of what I'm calling this kind of situational alliance, but very often the interests of Jews and African Americans from the time of Leo Frank on have come into direct conflict. There's all these moments where it's like not a simple alliance, but this really intense working out of, can we find mutual interest, even though it might not on the surface seem possible.
I think we both have reflected on how our relationship and the story of our election in the biggest Senate races of all time to secure this Senate majority is a continuation of that alliance between the Black community and the Jewish community that has such resonance in Georgia. And we're both committed to deepening and continuing that alliance. And a lot of folks, I think, get elected to office and lose touch with the communities that they represent. And that's why when I return home to Georgia, I'm on the road. In urban communities, suburban communities, rural communities, communities that have diverse interests and diverse experiences, but all need effective representation. I can't do my job to represent the needs and interests and voices of diverse communities in Georgia unless every day I'm taking the time to listen to the people I represent.